Welcome back. So last time we created our keypad, which is this guy over here. We created this keypad and we plugged in the code for it as well. This time we're going to create the door that we're going to interact with. And I'm still going to include this as a keypad. Sorry if you were looking for doors and you ended up on keypads, but let's get into it. Let's go over to blueprints. Now this time I'm going to create a new folder, and that folder is going to be called objects. So here we're going to right click, create a blueprint class. It's going to be an actor, and that actor is going to be called b_door. Nice and simple. Two things here. They are both static meshes. The first one is going to be called frame, and the second one is called door, just like that. So with frame, we actually do have a door frame that came along with our starter content. If we go down here to the starter content, we go into props, we can see a door frame and a door here ready to go, and this will work for our purposes today. So come down here, let's punch in frame. We want door frame. And then on door, we'll come down here and punch in door, making sure it's in the same folder. It is in our props folder. So there they are. They are ready to go. Now I'll drag the door off there so it's its own separate entity just for simplicity's sake. And we're going to move that door over here a little bit close to the center. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with 45 for now. Compile and save that. Another thing we're going to need is a box trigger, and we'll make that box fill up the space a bit. I'm not going to use scaling. I'm going to use the box extent. So on the z-axis, we'll make that. We'll bring it down to 100 and 100. Doesn't have to really cover the entire door. So we can see that that door's about 100 tall. It's probably 5 on the frame or something like that. But again, doesn't need to be perfect. I mean, I kind of spend way too long trying to make things perfect. We know the door is 45 across because it fits into that frame. And then we'll make that X 45 as well. So it's kind of like a square. Gives us plenty of room to walk up to the door. So now we'll hit compile and save again on that. So first thing we'll do is grab a reference to our hero. Right click, get player character. Drag off, cast to b_hero. Plug the executable in, right click on b_hero, promote to variable, reference hero. And then we're going to get the box collision on component begin overlap and on component end overlap. Our good old friends here. This is going to look a lot like every other time we've done it, but hey, you know what? I don't mind a bit of revision. I like going over things, and hopefully you do too, because I'm not going to fast forward this. I'm just going to do it in front of you. So we're going to get a reference hero, plug that into the branch so we make sure we're interacting with the right blueprint. And if an enemy walks up to the door, we're not necessarily paying attention to them, although enemies opening doors would be interesting. That's probably more of an AI thing now that I think of it. But you know, one step at a time. AI is coming a lot later down the line. So when we begin an end overlap, we are checking to see if it's the hero. And if it is the hero, we're going to use action reload because that is our action button. And then we're going to enable input if it is the hero and disable input if the hero walks away. We'll get a player controller. 62 videos in, you guys have seen it all before. Assuming you haven't skipped any. I'm not going to begrudge you if you did, because I know that sometimes you just want to build what you want to build and you don't want to go through all the other stuff. But I am kind of assuming prior knowledge. If we copy over reference hero, we have a HUD reference. Or reference HUD. See, there I go again. It must have been reference first, right? I think reference first was the way I wanted to do it. And then we're going to go set interaction text. And the interaction text is actually going to be a little bit easier than we've had before. We are going to use strings to convert back to text. So first step of this is going to be to add a variable. That variable is going to be door open. So we're checking if the door is open, and we will tell the player whether they will be opening or closing the door based on this. Now we'll go select. We're going to get append for string. And we're going to plug that into B. And the result of the appended string will be text that we can read on the other side. Plug door open into the index. So if the door is open, we're going to say close. And if the door isn't open, we're going to say open. And then our A append is going to be the same as our action button. And if you want to get smart about it, we can go over to something else we've worked on before, such as, I don't know, maybe our base pickup. And we'll come up here and copy the append string here. Now, just click on it once. It'll automatically select everything. That's what it's doing for me. Hopefully it's doing the same for you. We'll copy that, and then we can use that over here instead of typing the whole thing in. And then finally, if we walk out of the door, we're going to set our reference HUD to clear interaction text. For those of you who don't remember, or those of you who are skipping ahead to this video, essentially this set and clear interaction text is going to mean that whatever platform you're playing on, it's going to come up with the right symbol. So X for Xbox, square for PlayStation, or E for PC. And I set that up in earlier videos. So we'll compile it and save that. Let's make some room because we're going to now program the script for opening the door. So we're going to use a node called moveComponent2. This guy is going to be the one that moves the door itself. And it's a door, so we're not actually moving it. We're just going to rotate it, which if you noticed over here in the viewport is why the door actually has its point of reference down here on the hinge. I'm going to actually set up something else here, which is essentially the script for keys, but we're not doing keys at the moment. Keys are a different thing entirely. So I'm going to set it up just so we don't have to come and set it up again. But what we need is custom event, and that event's going to be toggle door. And that's what the move component's going to be. Over here, we're going to grab a branch, get a call to toggle door, and now we'll add another boolean, door locked. You don't have to add the question mark if you don't want. I'm just adding it because it kind of reminds me that it's a question to be asked. Is it true or is it false? So that's entirely up to you. And then I'm going to put a not here so that we can use the true for our usual. So if the door isn't locked, then we'll toggle the door. Toggling the door is going to look like this. We're going to move. The component is going to be the door itself, but we're also going to need to get relative location. So it needs a location to start off with. And we're not changing the location, as I said before, we're changing the rotation. Off of target relative rotation, which is what we want, we're going to grab that and select. Now here we'll plug in our door open. And then I'm going to get a little more complicated here because I know you guys can take it. I know you can. We're going to add another boolean called invert direction. This is going to come in handy. You're just going to have to trust me on this one as well. So we're going to punch in on the z-axis, -90 on the z and +90 on the z for true. And we're going to plug that into false. So when we fire this, it's going to, first of all, get if we've inverted the direction. If the direction's inverted, then we're going to either go plus or minus 90 degrees. And then if the door is open, we're going to ignore that altogether and just set it back to 0, which is the place it was before. Over time, we're going to do this over a second. This isn't going to be a very quick door, but if we wanted to, we could also program that so it can be edited later. And then finally, I'm going to set door open with another selector. You can tell I'm loving the selectors. With if the door is open, if it's false, then set it to true. If it's true, then set it to false. So basically just invert whether the door is open or not. And that's basically the script for the door. Pretty much done. So let's expose door locked and invert direction over here so we can edit them for each door. So one door could be locked and one door could be open, one could be no invert, one could be with inverted, and we can play with that out here in the actual world. And so that we actually have somewhere for our door to go, I'm going to grab this wall over here, drag over here. My snaps are way too sensitive, but I'm going to set that to 2000. Little trick, I'm not sure if I've shown you guys this before, but hey, why not? I'm going to drag out this wall again, and I'm going to set the brush type down here to subtractive. Knock down the size of it to about, say 105 on there, 105. We'll just say 105 and we'll play with it in a minute. And then when we drag a subtractive brush onto an additive brush, obviously, then it's going to look like that. Our X actually needs to be, I think it was 25. No, it was 50. These walls are 50 thick. So there we go. That works. And then I'm going to go over to objects and drag the door in. Now I can actually get a good feel for how big the door is. I'm going to line up my subtractive brush as close to that door as I can. So 210 was the number that worked for me. I'm going to drag that in there. As you can see, once I've selected the door, if I was to scroll up here, I have door locked and invert direction. We'll test which way this door is opening, and if it's opening the wrong way, we don't have to rotate the door necessarily. Let's walk up to it and see what's going on. So if I walk up to it close enough, it says open, and if I press the button, it opens. Now I press the button again, and the door is closing. That is the wrong direction. So yes, I could rotate this, or I could just go invert direction. And that looks like this. Kind of glad it opened the wrong way, so I can show you guys how this works. Now the door is opening the right way. And if I walk up to it again, it's closing. Now I'll move that door into the space here, and it looks like a room. You know, the sort of room that, you want to get into if you're playing a game. And there it is, a door, all functioning for us, ready to go, which can be opened and closed. And if you haven't already noticed, you can actually walk through the door. So to fix that, all we need to do is go over to props, open the door up. And if we come down here and have a look at our collision complexity, we can just use complex collision as simple. Save that. We'll do the same for the frame. Scroll down here. Use complex collision as simple. And if you want to see what the collisions look like, this is complex collision. So this is a very detailed version of the collision. It's not entirely necessary. And so that's where simple collision comes in. You can add boxes here and essentially shape the collision around. Some things won't work with collision enabled, some things will. So your mileage may vary depending on what you're doing. But now that door opens and it closes, and if I try and walk through it, I ain't getting through. One final check, if I was to click on that door and hit door locked, just to prove that it's all going well, if I walk up here and press that, nothing happens. My gun doesn't have collision at the moment. That's all right. We can sort that out later. But I can't open the door if it's locked. We could even check that later, but we're going to now combine the keypad and the door script. So we'll come back to that in the next episode.